There, and thank you for watching. All eyes on Wisconsin, at least when it comes to politics today. Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will be in our state today. According to a release from the Harris Walls campaign, Vice President Harris will host a rally and a concert in Madison later this afternoon and into this evening. This concert and rally is part of a series of When We Vote, We Win events featuring musical performances focused on getting voters in battleground states to the polls. This afternoon, former President Donald Trump also making his push to Wisconsin voters. Trump holding a rally at the Resch Center in Green Bay today. Doors for that event will open up at 2 in the afternoon. The event is set to begin at 6 tonight. Former Packers quarterback Brett Favre will be joining Trump. Then a big day on Friday as the dueling campaigns both stop in Milwaukee. We know Trump has an appearance scheduled at the Fiserv Forum for 7 that night. The location for the Harris event, though, has not yet been shared, but it is scheduled for around the same time. Wisconsin, of course, a critical part of the election, and we've already seen many visits from both sides of the aisle. This map right here shows where Harris has stopped so far in our state, and this one right here shows us where Trump has stopped so far in our state. There you go. The map pretty much all over the place in Wisconsin. So let's go back to Harris here. Her first presidential rally was on July 23rd in West Dallas. Harris came back with her VP nominee, Tim Walz, about a week and a half later. And during the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in August, she spoke at the Fiserv Forum as well in Milwaukee. On September 20th, Harris rallied at the Alliant Energy Center here in Madison. 2 weeks ago, a battleground blitz with stops in Milwaukee, La Crosse, and Green Bay, and she was back in Brookfield on October 21st. Trump has been in Wisconsin at least once a month, every month since April. He was in Green Bay, then he went to Waukesha and Racine, and then it was off to Milwaukee in July to accept the presidential nomination at the Republican National Convention. He held a town hall in La Crosse in August and then was in Mosinee in September. He stopped in Prairie du Chien as well. And on October 1st, he was in Waunakee and Milwaukee. The next day, he visited Juneau. So Wisconsin, obviously, a lot of spots here, a popular spot for both candidates to visit.